In this video we'll demonstrate how you can use the UX component, a list control and the ink control to build an image gallery that works really nicely on a mobile device. So you can see on the screen here we're reflecting my iPad, and in the top over here I have thumbnails that are displayed in a list control that I can scroll horizontally, and when I tap on any particular image the full-size version of the image is shown over there. But in addition, I can zoom and scale this image. So by just pinch zooming on the image, I can zoom out, I can move around the image itself, and then I can basically, by tapping on the 1-to-1 button, I can go back to its original size. So if I tap on the out button, you can see I'm zooming out, and if I tap on the in button, I'm zooming in. As soon as I tap on another image, we automatically set the zoom back to 1-to-1. So we have built here an image gallery type component, but it's been built from a list control and a ink control. So now we'll go back to the UX builder and we'll see how we actually built this component. So let's go now to the UX component, and you can see what we have over here is we have a list control, and if we look at this list control, in this particular case the list control is static data, but it could just as easily be data that comes from a SQL database, and you can allow the user to do a query to find the records of interest. And in this particular case we're pointing to images that are stored on Amazon S3. So you can see that we have the real image over here on S3 in a folder called Image Gallery, and then we have the thumbnail in a folder on S3 called Image Gallery Thumbs, and then each name has a underbar thumb suffix. So basically that's the source for the list itself. And then if we go to the list properties here, we can see that we've turned the list into a freeform list, and we've specified that the scrolling direction is horizontal scrolling. We've also set a padding of 0 and a margin of 0 on each list item, so that each image touches the next image. You can see if we go back to the device over here, we can see that each item in the list, which is going horizontally here, immediately abuts the item next to it. So basically that was achieved by setting the padding and margin to 0. If you wanted to have some space between items, you would change that value. And now, since we've set this to be a horizontal scrolling list, we've gone and we've specified that the actual scroll direction should only be on the x-axis. So this stops the list from scrolling up and down if you move your finger up and down on the list. So you can only scroll horizontally. Then for the list layout, which is now a freeform layout, you can see we've just put the thumbnail on the image on the list itself. So that defines how the list itself is displayed. Then you can see that our actual layout of the UX component has two panel cards. The first panel card contains the list, and then the second panel card contains the ink control, which is used to display the image. And we use the ink control because that gives us built-in zoom and pinch zoom functionality. But then we've gone ahead and we've wrapped these two panel cards, this panel card and this panel card over here, inside a panel layout that goes top to bottom, and we've gone and we've set the height, the size of this first panel card to 100 pixels. So basically if we go back and look at the actual component here, here's the first panel card up to there, which is 100 pixels high, and then here's the second panel card, which takes up the rest of the space in the component. So inside the first panel card we've set this list control to fill the panel card, and then the ink control we've also specified that we'd like to fill the container. So let's continue now in the next video and show how we've configured this ink control and how we get the image that is tapped on in the list to display in the ink control. So continuing now with how our image gallery was constructed, we're looking now at the properties of this ink control. So we'll go over here to the ink properties, and the first thing to notice is that we've set the layout to be the view part of the ink control. So if you've used the ink control previously, you know that the ink control is normally divided into two distinct parts. The view part, which basically shows the full ink palette, and then the editor where you actually start drawing the ink. And the view part allows you to select the portion of the image that you want to be or the portion of the page that you want to be drawing ink on. In this case, we don't actually even want to do any drawing. We don't want to draw any ink, and so we don't care about the editor portion at all. The only part we care about is the view part, and so we're going to set the layout here to be the view part. Now the view part itself has a little sort of movable box on it which lets you select the portion of the page where you want to be drawing the ink, but we don't care about that, so we're going to basically turn the zoom box. We're going to make that hidden, and the way that we make that hidden is we just specify a class here called ink zoom hidden. If we go look here, ink zoom hidden has display of none. So basically these two properties here, by setting the zoom box class name to ink zoom hidden, we're going to hide the zoom box that will normally show on top of the picture. And then for the page itself, which is where the image will be shown, we've chosen this class, which is ink page view. And you can see ink page view here. We've basically created a box shadow around the image. So if we go back and look at the image here, you can see here's the page, and we've got this little box shadow effect around the page. So this is the page, or the view part of the ink control, where the background image will be shown. So just going back here and summarizing, what we've done is we've set the initial layout to just be the view. We've chosen a preview size, and then we've set some class names here to hide the zoom box. So now we have an ink control, and basically the next step is to figure out how to set the background image on the ink control when the user taps on a row in the list. So let's go back now to the list control, and we'll go over now to the list control events, and we'll see that in the on-click event, what we're doing over here is first we're going to get a pointer to the ink control. So now we have a pointer to the ink control. Then we're going to get basically the data, the actual image name from the row that the user clicked on in the list. So this is done by using this dot selection data 0, and then we want the image field. So recall that the static data for this list had two fields, image and thumbnail. So we want the image. Now this syntax here, this data selection 0, selection data 0, you can see here in the more help it tells you here that to get the data you use this dot selection data. Then basically, since we're only allowing one image at a time or one item at a time to be selected, we only care about 0 because there can only be one current selection. So this is data selection 0. If you allowed multiple selections, you could specify which of the selections you wanted, but since we only have a single selection, it's going to always be 0 over here, and then the actual column name that you want, which in this case is image. So this here gives us the URL of the image that we'd like to display, and then we're going to basically set the ink background to that image. So let's pause now and pick this up in the next video. So we're continuing now with our discussion of the image gallery that's constructed using a list control and an ink control. So now that we have a pointer to the ink control itself, and we also have the data that we'd like to display in the ink control, we need to call the ink control's set background method. So this method takes an object, and inside the object basically we need to specify an image property, and this image property is itself an object that has a data property. So we're going to basically set the data property of this image object to data, which is this field over here. So this is the URL of the image that we'd like to display. So this is the URL on Amazon S3 of the image that we'd like to display. And then we've set save equals false over here. But since we're not actually saving any data from the ink control, this was somewhat irrelevant. But what this simply means is that if we had allowed the user to draw on top of the ink, and then we had committed the ink value back to store the ink value, we would be just storing the ink and not the background image. So this basically refers to whether the background image will be saved when you save the ink, but as mentioned in this particular case here, it's irrelevant. And then the next thing that we're going to do is, if the user had zoomed in or out on the previous image, and then when they click on a new image, we'd like to set the zoom state back to 1:1. So we're going to go here and we're going to call this the ink object's navigate method, and we're basically navigating the view part, which is the part of the ink control that we're looking at, and we're going to set the scale to these properties over here. So basically that sets the zoom state back to 1:1. And then you can also see that if we go to this particular panel card here, and we can see in the panel footer we put 3 buttons here: a button that automatically goes back to 1:1, one that zooms out, and one that zooms in. So if we look at this first button over here, we'll see that basically it's doing the exact same thing that we had in our on-click event. So this sets the scale back to 1:1. And then if we look at the button that zooms out, we can see that basically this does scale out. And then if we look at the button that scales in, we can see that this again does a navigate and a scale in. So basically what we have over here now is a completely custom image gallery that we can customize further, and it's based on a list. In this particular case, the list data source is static, but it could just as easily be from a database, and then an ink control that is used to display the selected image in the list control. And because we're using an ink control and not just an image control here, we get the ability to zoom and pan on the image itself. So what we've shown over here is a really powerful technique that uses a list and an image to build a image gallery control. And furthermore, since if this was a PhoneGap application, you could also make this work offline. So currently these images here are all pointing to images that are on Amazon S3. But if this was designed to be an offline application, you would need to fetch the images from S3 and store them in the file system on the device. So this list here itself could be extended by going over here, turning on the list detail view, and then going over here to detail view properties and going to the PhoneGap applications only property here, and specifying that that when the list is loaded, what you want to do is automatically download the media files from the remote location and store them on the device itself. So basically you can turn that property on, and then what would happen is when the list is initially populated, those images would be fetched from S3 and put into the file system, which would mean that your PhoneGap application would work even when there is no connection. So thanks very much for watching.